Okay, so let's crack on with the first big segment of Pro Soccer Talk this week. Who impressed us most in the opening weekend of the season? We're going to focus on some clubs and players who did particularly well. And Nick Mendola, I'm coming to you first. Manchester City and Erling Haaland. He scored twice on his Premier League debut. They dominated West Ham. I mean, Haaland at this point, what's the over-under on the goals he's going to score? 30, 35? Because across the board, Man City looked like they didn't miss a beat all over the summer, right? They were really, really impressive.
Well, he's on pace for 76, and you got to think there will be weeks he plays in the Champions League and not in, no. I am so impressed, and I want to like hedge because Andy had made a point. Like, it's going to take him some time to really be at his best. But that's the fact of the matter is that's true. And he's not going to score 2 goals every week. But we saw it in the times when he had to be a little bit tidier. And in fact, he showed me he was ahead of himself there. We didn't have to see that a lot. Dortmund played a lot of direct, or if not, it was Marco Reus, who, much like Kevin De Bruyne, can play a ball that very few players can play to set him up. But Andy's right in that way. It's not always going to look clean, but we also forget that, like that commercial where there's an insurance commercial where Charles Barkley gets selected first in the game against kids. Haaland is like combination robot, dinosaur, whatever. He is literally a specimen, is the word I keep using. And there were just times where he was too fast, too big, too strong, too powerful for West Ham to deal with. Now, West Ham is not the best backline in the world, but that's the other thing to worry about for if you're not a Man City fan, is just that's a decent West Ham team. And Man City had very little problem.
Andy, I mean, we saw Haaland obviously just burst through for his second goal there. De Bruyne found him with an inch-perfect pass, and that really summed up the extra dimension he gives Man City, right? We talk about his brute strength, how he bullies defenders, can hold the ball up and finish in and around the 6-yard box. But we saw that he's got a great motor as well. And again, we keep saying he's young, but he's so huge and just destroys defenses. But that second goal in particular showed, okay, if Man City, if it doesn't quite work and they can't quite find that final pass of knocking it around side to side, they can go direct and hurt teams too. And that was pretty scary for the rest of the Premier League to watch there.
Yeah, I stand by absolutely everything I said in the summer about Man City, about Pep, about Haaland, and the acclimation, just the getting to know each other and figuring out how to make it work, period. And after one game, I don't know that any of it matters. Like, yes, all of those issues are still going. There will be bumps along the way. And I think Nick put it absolutely perfectly, saying it won't always look perfect or smooth. And I think that's kind of the standard that we're holding Manchester City to is we need you to win every weekend. We need you to win 3-0 every weekend. And we need you to do it playing the most beautiful football that can possibly be. That is the standard they have set for themselves. And so rightly so. And I just don't know that it matters that he doesn't completely get it. This is completely different to a year ago when it was Jack Grealish and we were talking about figuring out how to play in that team and play in Pep's system. And the little tactical tweak of bringing both the fullbacks inside into central midfield now from Pep, everybody else is just catching up to one fullback plays inside and adds an extra central midfielder. He's already a step ahead. Well, what are we going to do next? Let's bring them both inside and let's flood the middle of the field. That's possible because of Haaland, because he's there's no longer a false 9 taking up that space underneath. You need an extra body in there. And I think it's not actually about how they attack. It's about how they control the game. It's about how they defend as well and how they keep that stranglehold on games. We think of false 9 as, well, there's no forward up top to attack, but it really is about a numbers game in the middle of the field. And Pep has just found another way around that. You give him a traditional big, massive center forward that doesn't fit the tiki-taka style. Doesn't matter. He'll find a different way to make it work. He really, really is a genius.
He is a genius for sure. And seeing Cancelo in the number 7 shirt as well, it works, right? He is not really a fullback. He does it like an attacking midfielder when he gets on the ball. And what I loved about City, you could see they were working it out in terms of having a slightly different style of play. And Foden and Grealish were encouraged to get further forward, tuck inside, and then clip those crosses in. That Haaland nearly got on one in the first half where he just missed a header. And we're going to see a lot of that from City this season, even more variation to their already superb game. Nick, Tottenham Hotspur, impressive. 4-1 win against Southampton in the opening weekend. Kulusevski, we love him here at PST. He was brilliant. I mean, the cross for the opening goal, he scored one of his own. Andy, we'll talk about him in a minute because I know he's a particular favourite of yours. But Nick, are Tottenham the real deal this season? It's early doors. We've all tipped them to do well, but did that just kind of underline just how dominant they can be under Antonio Conte?
Absolutely. He's convinced the depth spend, and that's absolutely huge. And it's a real depth spend. It's not, if these guys get hurt. It's we can be interchangeable. We can mix it up. I look at it this way, and a little bit of NFL banter, which is going to happen a lot this season. Bills fans here in Buffalo got a little bit excited, even though he was coming in division, that Tyreek Hill was leaving Kansas City. Because it was, there's one less weapon to worry about. It's Kelsey and whoever else is there. I'm looking at Tottenham now. If you're game planning for them, much like Man City, right? It used to be Kevin De Bruyne was the quarterback, and who's he going to pass it to? Who's his number one target? Well, now he has one. Tottenham now has, like, the NFL equivalent, sticking with that, a wide receiver core, right? Like, if you don't pay attention to this guy's going to be open. And it's funny because we don't yet know necessarily who's the string puller there, and Andy may be able to tell us. I think it's about Kane as a hold-up man, who he decides to go with. Is he going to take you on directly, or is he deferring to his wingers? And that's a problem, because if you're Liverpool or City or United and you're getting ready to plan for this team, and the manager is Antonio Conte, about as brilliant and big a winner as you're going to meet, you don't know what he's going to do to you on a given week. And that makes Tottenham potentially, if I'm honest, strategically, maybe more dangerous than Liverpool.
Yeah, and Joe, I know a part of that metaphor might have been lost on you, but Nick nailed that one, actually. And I think it is kind of the perfect way of describing what the situation, the weapons, just the pieces, the tools for Conte to use this season. It's interesting to hear somebody else now kind of say what I've been kind of seeing and thinking about the Spurs team over the summer, where it just makes so much sense to, you bring in depth, but it's not depth that you're afraid to play. It's depth that eventually 3 or 4 of them will challenge and probably overtake for starting spots in this team. But it didn't have to happen on week 1 either. He didn't start a single new signing in week 1. It was almost the exact same lineup that, when everyone was healthy, got them through the end of the season last season and got them to a 4th place finish. That depth is not needed to come in from day one, save us, be a star, make us a different team. What was already there was good enough. It just needed a little bit more behind it and to push it forward as well. So I look at the way Conte and Paratici have gone about this summer with the squad that they had when they came in. And by the way, it is amazing to think that this time last year, Nuno Espirito Santo was the manager of Tottenham, and they looked the way that they did for 10 games. And without having seen, aside from, I guess, Bentancur and Kulusevski, who came in January, they haven't done anything to change the squad. It's just the quality, the brilliance, the genius, I'm almost ready to say, of Conte taking the Spurs team, I think, to the next level. It's going to be a special season. I don't know how to quantify that trophy, what place. It's going to be a special ride, I think, for Spurs fans this year.
Oh, very positive feelings around Tottenham. And as we said there, Perisic can come in on the left. He can start. He can play in multiple positions. You have Richarlison's now back from suspension, so he can come into that front line. And these are quality, high-level, international caliber players who are just waiting in the wings, and like Nick said, going to rotate, and everyone's going to stay fresh, and they've got the Champions League to worry about. But yeah, Tottenham, I think it's going to be a really special season. You said it there, Andy. Moving across North London, I think it could be a special season for Arsenal as well. They won against Crystal Palace in the opening game. But the opening 30 minutes of that game, they looked like Brazil. I know they got a lot of Brazilian players in the team, but they were passing, moving, the fluid movement. Gabby Jesus was excellent. Nick, what do you think about Arsenal? The only kind of alarm bell I've got in the back of my mind is defensively, are they sound enough? Because we saw Zaha and others get in behind them and not make the most of those opportunities. But that's Palace. It's away, Selhurst Park, tough place to go. But they withstood that, got a clean sheet. So Arsenal, they're probably the real deal right alongside Tottenham to finish in the top 4 this season. Do you agree?
You have to like them. You don't have to like them, Andy, but you have to like their chances this year. Gabby Jesus tied for the Premier League lead in successful dribbles. And that is not something he was asked to do at Man City. Not because he couldn't, but because that was the role in the system. That was his job. His job is now to be, this can sound so stereotypical, and I apologize in advance, be a little bit more Brazilian. Right? Be a little bit more of the airport commercial from the late 90s that we all love so much at the World Cup. And he showed us some things. We would used to see this with Richarlison a little bit too, when he was at Everton. And then he would go on Brazil duty and be like, oh, yeah, he can do that. The system sometimes limits you, but also makes you better in other areas. And I think maybe Mikel Arteta's biggest worry will be, can he take Gabby Jesus and can he give him freedom while keeping the discipline that made him so successful as well at Man City?
Yeah, I loved that he was just popping up centrally all the time. He didn't really go out to the flanks too much. That was his role. That's his job in this Arsenal team. And I think it was after 3 or 4 minutes of the game, he turned, nutmegged someone, ran past another 3 Palace defenders, and then they somehow got a block in to deny him, and then Martinelli should have scored the rebound. And that is why they signed Jesus, because even if he's not scoring the goals, and there are some question marks about his clinical edge in front of the goal. He's scored a lot, but had a lot of other chances. But even if he's not scoring, he's creating spaces for Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, Smith Rowe. And that chaos that he created in that first game, especially in the first half of it, I think will really benefit those other Arsenal attackers. So defensively, they can keep improving. I think Ben White at right back is an interesting experiment, let's say that. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch Arsenal and Tottenham and the other teams we mentioned so far. But before we move on to the next segment, anybody else, any teams or players stand out for you guys this weekend? Any big surprises? Nick, I'm coming to you first. I can see you grimacing. I'm
grimacing because this is going to happen now that the team that I tend to like is halfway decent. I watched Newcastle the second half of last season. I saw Bruno Guimaraes. I said to myself, they shouldn't have him this early in the project. He was absolutely sensational. Granted, Nottingham Forest also looked like a team that maybe we all had at a dark horse, and maybe they're not there. Maybe there's something to worry about there.
A lot of new players.
Holy cow. I mean, he's not the same player, so I'm not saying they're on the same level, but his role was when De Bruyne was at Wolfsburg and he was a little less surrounded by talent. That's what it looked like. And I start to wonder during that game, how long will Newcastle keep this guy? Because that's how good he looked. That's how good he looked.
Andy, anybody else stand out for you, mate?
Yeah, I'll go back to a couple of points ago. It was actually Arsenal to me. They are absolutely incredible to watch. They are those 30 minutes were some of just the most fluid, quickest, prettiest one-touch move stuff that has probably ever been played in the Premier League. They'll probably be, aside from the dominance at the top of the league, probably the best neutral viewing experience for someone that just wants to watch how the game is played this season. The interchangeable parts, the technical ability, the mental understanding that they have with one another. It's been long enough under Mikel Arteta. I think you would expect that to be there. The question, and you were right, Joe, I think it will come down to how strong can he make that defense. I think that will probably determine, are they top 4 team, or are they actually, maybe in the same conversation with Spurs, can they challenge the top 2?
Who knows? It's going to be exciting. I was actually impressed with Darwin Núñez for Liverpool. He came off the bench and totally sparked that attack into life. And they looked really sluggish, Liverpool, for most of that game away at Fulham, where they got the 2-2 draw. But his presence just brought the best out of Salah and everyone else around him. It was just really, really excellent to watch, to see this guy that we expect a lot from delivers. And he was hungry, and he could have scored a couple more, but scored one, set up another. Liverpool got a draw pretty much because of his impact. So exciting times in terms of a new superstar coming to the Premier League. But remember, over on Pro Soccer Talk at NBCSports.com, we'll keep you updated with how to watch these games, previews, recaps, analysis of all the Premier League games this season, all 380. We've just started the season, but my word, that was a lot of fun thinking about what is to come in the other 37 games for each team.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.